Let's see what shape Tiger chooses. Draw it off the bunker. Has he drawn it too much?
My name's Apollo Romeo, and before I talk about how I beat Tiger Woods in the last round of the Masters, I'm going to give a quick debrief on my sports skill analysis of the swinging of the golf club. In this video, we'll discuss the primary joint movements involved in the skill, planes of motion, axis of motion, the bones that articulate to allow for each of the primary joint movements, the types of synovial joints involved, agonist, antagonist, synergist muscles, and the role that one of Newton's laws play in the execution of skill, along with the role that each energy system play along with the sport, and I will also apply 2 of the 7 biomechanical principles. The first set of bones we will be talking about are the carpals. The synovial joint affiliated with the carpals are the gliding/plane joint. The carpals articulate to cause wrist flexion. Although the humerus isn't featured here, the next 3 bones I wanted to talk about consist of the ulna, the radius, and the humerus. These 3 bones articulate to create elbow extension. The joint affiliated with these bones is the hinge joint. When looking at the muscles causing wrist flexion, we can observe the agonist and antagonist muscle. The agonist muscle would be the forearm flexor pronator group. The origin of the forearm flexor pronator group is on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. The insertion point is at the metacarpals. The actions that the forearm flexor pronator group can consist of include, of course, wrist flexion and pronation. The antagonist muscle would be the forearm extensor supinator group. The origin of the forearm extensor supinator group is on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Its insertion point is once again at the metacarpals, and the 2 actions it can consist of are wrist extension and supination. The synergist is the brachioradialis. The origin point is on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Its insertion is on the radial styloid process, and its action is of course elbow flexion in the pronated grip. When looking at the muscles that cause elbow extension, the agonist muscle would be the triceps brachii. It has 3 origins. First being the infraglenoid tubercle, and the other 2 being on the shafts of the humerus. Its insertion point is on the olecranon process, and its action is, of course, elbow extension. Its antagonist is the biceps brachii. The origin is on the coracoid process and the supraglenoid tubercle. Its insertion is on the radius, and its actions are elbow flexion and supination. For hip medial rotation, we will be looking at the pubis bone, which also consists of the ilium and the ischium. The joint movement for this specific bone is ball and socket. The agonist muscle would be your pectineus, which originates on the pubis. The insertion point is the lesser trochanter, and the actions are hip adduction and hip internal rotation, which obviously we're looking at right now. The antagonist muscle is the gluteus maximus. It originates on the iliac crest and sacrum. Its insertion point is the greater trochanter. Its actions consist of hip extension and hip external rotation. It's time to look at some planes. In the sagittal plane, we have both elbow extension and wrist flexion, which both occur along the horizontal axis. In the transverse plane, we have hip internal rotation, which occurs along the longitudinal axis. It's time to talk about the energy systems in golf. There are 3 main energy systems that we use during sports. First, we're going to talk about ATP-PC. The ATP-PC system is used in all-out maximum efforts within sports in a very, very short period of time. In the video above, you can see this dummy, Apollo, using an all-out maximum effort on a driver's swing, which eventually led to the head of the driver being completely topped off in the air. Yes, the driver did end up breaking. This is just another example of when we would use our ATP PC system in golf when we're trying to hit a very powerful driver swing, or really any swing at all where you're trying to completely maximize the power that you can swing with. The next system we will be looking at briefly is glycolysis. Glycolysis happens during high intensity efforts within sports. Although it runs a little longer than ATP-PC, it really is not that much longer. It can only withstand itself for around up to a minute max. In the sport of golf, we rarely see glycolysis being used, as aside from the ATP-PC system on our all-out maximum effort swings, there really isn't much intensity being used in golf unless you are jogging along the 9 or 18 holes you'd be playing, which rarely any golfers ever do. The next system I want to talk about is the aerobic system. I specifically showed this clip of Tiger Woods walking with the most infamous crowd in golf to give a proper example of what golfers are doing 95% of the time they walk up to their next shot on the fairway, which is of course walking. The aerobic system takes place during low intensity efforts within sport. Golf, of course being one of them, is the perfect example of when the aerobic system would be primarily used, as aside from your hard-hitting shots, there is not much energy being used like any other sport where you're running constantly out of breath. You're pretty much walking the entire time, which is why the aerobic system is so beneficial within the sport of golf. The next thing I'll be talking about today is how Newton's third law connects to golf. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the sport of golf, the third law is more connected to the game by explaining the force that is exerted by the club back onto the ball and the equal and opposite reaction force that the ball exerts back onto the club. This principle is crucial for understanding the mechanics of your everyday golf swing, as it provides insight into how the club's force affects the ball's motion and vice versa. Now it's time for some biomechanics. The first principle I'm going to be talking about today is maximum force production. This is applied by a golfer during a very powerful drive or powerful swing, using as many relevant joints and muscles as possible, and by allowing these joints to move through their full range of motion. During a golf swing, multiple body parts work together, such as the ankles, knees, and hips, which drive against the ground and rotate, the trunk and spine, which also rotate to transfer force from the lower body to the upper body, the shoulders, which rotate and accelerate the club, and the elbows and wrists, which extend and release through impact. Next, we have joint sequencing. Joint sequencing means that to generate maximum velocity on a projectile or an implement such as a golf ball, the body's joints should move in order from the largest and the strongest to the smallest and the fastest joints. The large joints begin the movement and create force, with the smaller joints at speed at the end. This allows velocity to build through the movement. In the video I'm about to show you, we will see how Bryson DeChambeau, a very famous and very good golfer, demonstrates this perfectly. To start, Bryson has his hips rotating first. Then his trunk rotates, followed by his shoulders beginning to accelerate through the swing. His elbows begin to extend, and his wrists unlock and snap through the impact of his swing. Great swing, Bryson. Thank you so much for watching my video on the golf swing.